Hey, salut à tous, c'est Polo et on se retrouve encore
All
une
of
fois
his co-workers
pour Stanley.
were gone. What could it
C'est bon, on a
mean?
compris, on a compris.
Stanley
allez.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Bon, qu'est-ce qu'on va faire là? On va
When
foncer.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
On va rusher, vu que maintenant on connaît, ça j'ai déjà regardé.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he'd coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Hop, en bas. En bas là y'a rien. Your house.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Allez, hop.
And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe,
Ew.
he thought to himself,
Je suis en train de
maybe
tourner en rond.
I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at
C'est
all.
quoi ce bordel?
None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this,
voiture
he
moche.
began to make other strange observations. For
c'était une
example,
plaque.
why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
sais.
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
vrai, ça fait
Were they
4 fois que
simply
je regarde.
repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer,
Si je
an
parle pas beaucoup, je ferai
explanation.
de commentaires, c'est parce
His
que comme,
co-workers
c'est une
weren't
narration,
actually
c'est
gone.
compliqué de-
He wasn't going to lose his
Je vais pas
job.
commencer à faire
He
des
wasn't
commentaires de
crazy
commentaires.
after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and
Excellente
thinking?
question.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Est-ce qu'elle
Now,
fonctionne
hearing the
vraiment,
voice
ces
speak
horloges?
these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up.
Oh,
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons.
c'est une fin?
Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine.
Ouais, on va.
I am okay.
Évidemment.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss, I have an office, I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real, I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Oh.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Je sais pas trop quoi dire là. Enfin, ok, notre perso est fou. Et c'est une connasse. Ok, on va prendre ça. On est parti.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
Oula oula, c'est quoi ce délire? The end is never the end, never the end. Je pense que là c'est la même chose. Ouais.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ok, mais je comprends pas pourquoi est-ce que le commentaire... C'était pas ouvert ça.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Il y a le panneau escape, je m'en souviens. On va faire ça, et après il y a la fin où il faut appuyer sur on. À la place de off comme je...
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Le code c'est quoi? C'est 2 bits 400.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Quelque chose. Allez hop. Du coup, on va prendre le truc escape. De l'autre côté, je ne savais pas comment y aller, donc on va plutôt faire ça. Hop. Du coup, ça va être un épisode un peu plus long avec 2 fins. Ou alors je le ferai en 2 parties où je séparerai les 2 fins, mais ce sera un même épisode en fait.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
On fout.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Non.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Hop. Ok, si tu veux. Oh merde.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the big picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Ok.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Oh, c'est stylé.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
C'est le plan, ça. Les chemins, les deux premières ports. Donc on commence là. On se balade là, là. Là et là, c'est les deux portes. La première pièce concrète du design. Une fois que la pièce est créée, le reste du jeu en a émergé, par la suite en extension. La chambre avec la contradiction, le corridor. De toute façon, on peut rien y faire, je vois pas trop pourquoi. Le cabinet. Ah, j'avais pas vu ça, solitaire. Et ça, c'est noté quoi? Installation, database, un ordinateur, le bureau, avec les portes toujours fermées, les sons des boutons. Ah, c'est stylé. Un musée pour les crédits. Ah ça, je vais vous le mettre. Moi, je vais passer vite fait, voilà. Ça, vous pouvez regarder. Mais ces mecs méritent vraiment qu'on applaudisse leur boulot parce que c'est quand même extraordinaire ce qu'ils font là. Le bureau. La chambre de maintenance. C'est pas là que j'y suis allé? Ah non, c'est une version plus jeune. C'est carrément stylé d'incorporer ça. C'est incorporer comment le jeu a été développé avec des petits détails. Alors, du coup, il faut gagner, il faut perdre. Ça, c'est quand on devient fou. Ouais. Ah, il y a une salle ici. On dirait Tron. Warzone, early in the development, design. Il se termine dans un champ de bataille avec des aliens, en combattant des aliens. L'action serait devenue... ouais... Ok, donc une guerre contre le narrateur. Donc c'était trop... Jockey et on the nose. Faudra que je regarde ce que ça veut dire, je sais pas ce que ça veut dire jockey. Plus on aurait interprété comme quoi on voulait faire plaisir aux joueurs. Ouais, mais ça aurait été stylé ça. Ça déjà ils nous ont incorporé Minecraft, Greenlight. Et bah ils ont bien joué. Congratulations, wow, congratulations. Dans l'annoncement regarding machin. Non, merci, intermis. Vous êtes le premier. Don't have any friend. C'est quoi ça? Narrateur email. Après le second trailer, nous avons demandé aux gens d'envoyer un email au narrateur pour des questions, pendant que nous avions initialement prévu d'utiliser en tant que promotion. On n'a jamais trouvé l'usage parfait pour elle. Donc ça c'est une sélection des emails qu'ils comptent utiliser pour faire la promo du jeu et tout. Oh yes, what is your message for today? Ok. C'est assez énorme. The Office toujours. Hop hop hop. Cargo lift. Seconde version et son non. Ok. C'est quoi? Timer. Oh, mais j'ai pas eu cette fin, la fin de l'appartement. Du coup, premier choix, obéir, désobéir. Troisième choix, une porte à la maintenance, deux portes pour la maintenance. Oh la vache, c'est compliqué. Donc c'est quoi ça maintenant? To flow, for the first owner, machin. Donc il y a 4 versions. J'ai fait 3 fins. J'ai fait une fin où on désobéit totalement, une fin où on obéit partiellement. Putain, il y a combien de fins dans ce jeu, merde? Hop 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 hop, Zending model. Hop, organise la pause. Skip menu. Zending model. Zending, ça je l'ai pas vu non plus, j'espère qu'il y est. Qu'il est incorporé. Oh la vache, c'est vraiment énorme ce qu'ils ont fait. Je suis pas descendu pour aller voir. Je suis en train de visiter un musée. Trailer. Ouais. M'intéresse pas. De toute façon, il y a un écran gris. Oh bordel, je vais par où? Ces boutons. Ça c'est Game Design Mockup. Ok. Si vous voulez lire, vous mettrez en pause. Là, je rush un peu. Le bureau, attends. C'est la première version, deuxième et troisième. Et la troisième était la meilleure. Bon choix, très bon choix. Ça, on l'a vu. Hop, donc on va aller par là. C'est quoi ça? Freedom Ending. Freedom, ça doit être celle que je n'ai pas faite du coup. Vu que c'est celle... c'est celle où j'étais censé appuyer sur le bouton on. Enfin off pardon, et où j'ai du coup j'ai pas appuyé. Enfin, bref. Boss Office. Bah la version actuelle aussi est vraiment mieux je trouve. Elle est beaucoup plus vivante, elle fait vraiment boss. Employees Office, Underground. Yeah. Sérieusement.
Now, this elevator for sure will get him right back on track. Nothing there. Shoot. Score. Well, try the other one then. Now look at this. See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room. Perfect example of poor level design.
La vache.
Textbook.
Ce jeu a quand même demandé pas mal de travail. Enfin, comme tous les jeux, vous allez me dire, mais bon. C'est assez impressionnant de voir que là, il y a vraiment une création énorme niveau narration, et la narration, c'est souvent ce qui est très très dur à faire pour les jeux. Enfin, je trouve, à mon goût, parce que la plupart du temps, les scénarios de jeux sont pas énormes.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now. It'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Bah si, finalement. Pas de rebondissement? Non? Si? Ah oui, carrément! Ok. Ok, bon bah je vais couper là. Je pense que le jeu a décidé qu'il fallait que je m'arrête. Donc voilà, j'espère que ça vous a plu. Je découperai cet épisode en 2 petits épisodes du coup pour que vous ayez les différentes parties, les 2 fins que je viens de faire, et je vais essayer de terminer les autres. Allez, à plus!